to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. What a football weekend it is in the NFL. Here we are, December 12th. It's crunch time. I keep saying crunch time, but this is it. This is where we separate the great teams and the good teams. We got a lot of great matchups. We got Dolphins, Chiefs. We got the Raiders and Colts. We got a great Monday night game. The Cleveland Browns are on Monday Night Football going for number 10. How many times can we say the Cleveland Browns are going for 10 wins this year?
I was going to say real. It's like this year, real people and fake people.
Real people and fake people. We're going to see who's real, and we're going to see who's fake. Because that's what 2020 is.
Because there's a lot of fake people.
That's what 2020 has brought this year, if anything.
Joe, I've seen a lot of memes like that. I was looking through a scroll last night. I think I sent it to Trev last year. You know what this has proved this year? There's a lot of fake people right now. A lot of fake people in 20. You start to find out people's true colors.
You see the true colors.
And I think this weekend, like we were talking, pregame, getting our warm-ups in, that we went through. There's like 6 good games this week. There's 6 good games this week. And we're going to start to take teams a little bit more seriously.
Jace, we're watching the Utes this year, too, as well. We're actually watching the Utes game.
Don't worry, Jace. I already bet the Colorado Buffaloes because everyone on College Game Day picked the Buffs. They were +3 at home. Let's go, Buffs.
And like you said, Ted, this is
that's
fine. That's fine. It's a football weekend. It's a huge weekend in the NFL. A huge slate of games.
Michigan lost to Ohio State
starting tomorrow. Michigan, Ohio State. Should we get into that conversation, Joe? People saw that conversation. Trust me, they'd be paying for paper.
It wouldn't even matter.
See, that's only on pay-per-view. They got to pay for that. That's an extra part of the subscription with Keys to the City. But we are streaming also on all social media platforms at Keys to the City, YouTube. So follow, subscribe, comment, share, and like. Like you said, this is a telling week for a lot of those teams. Well, one of those teams is our Big Blue, the New York Football Giants, coming off a major victory. Probably the biggest victory in the past, maybe since that Dallas game 4 years ago, that Sunday night game.
The 10-7.
The 10-7 game.
Back
4 years ago.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, well, he had the slant and gone. And that's what he does. That's what he can do with that. But I wanted to talk. We talked about it very briefly the other day until Ted, as usual, switched over and went somewhere else, complete 180 on me. And I wanted to talk about Dave Gettleman because this is a man that I have, Joseph has, Ted has, and we have all, and all Giant fans, Big Blue Nation, I should speak on, we have all destroyed this man, ripped him, to the point we've said, impeach Gettleman. We want Gettleman gone. Now let's look at 4 weeks ago, we were 1-7, and we were talking about, well, Dave Gettleman looks like he's gone. He's going to be out in his can. Now we move over 4 weeks later, the New York Giants are in first place in the NFC East, 5-7, and they're getting better. So who do we give the credit to? Do we give it all to Dave Gettleman? Is it Joe Judge? If anything, you got to give more of the credit to Dave Gettleman because look at what he's done. And it all started last year, too. And hell, we could even go back with the Odell Beckham trade because that was a trade that many people and all 3 of us at the time were very frustrated and shocked because we never thought Dave Gettleman, or I should say Odell Beckham, was going to be in another uniform. Now let's go back 2 years. Let's go 2 years later.
I was not happy.
And look at the trade. We have maybe a future Pro Bowl or perennial Pro Bowl in Jabril Peppers, who's really demonstrating his talents now in Big Blue. Dexter Lawrence has been one of the better picks of that draft class at the 17th pick. And then Oshani Semitis, if he could ever stay healthy, has a lot of potential. Zeidler they got for Vernon. So that was a big trade as well, who's been the veteran presence in that offensive line. And then you just look at this draft class, and you guys could chime in anytime you want. I know I'm speaking, but this is what Dave Gettleman has done. Traded for Leonard Williams. We bashed him for that. I don't know about you, but maybe other than Aaron Donald this year, Leonard Williams has to be considered one of the best, if not the best, interior defensive linemen in this game this season, leading the team in 8.5 sacks. He's pressuring the quarterback almost other than Aaron Donald. I think he's second in stats. I know Joe had some stats of that. But he's literally in every major category. He's up there of the top defensive linemen in the game this year. And like I said, you could chime in whatever.
Well, let me jump in first because hold on.
With Daniel Jones, he's going to bash for that too.
I already see the look on Ted's face. I know how he feels, and the whole argument is that Leonard Williams hasn't been doing it long enough.
No, I wasn't doing that. I actually
come on, Joe, go after him.
All I was going to say was because I had the papers in front of me. All I was going to say is between the 10 players that are in front of me on this top paper on the New York Post, which are the draftees, I'm adding. And you look at the 4 free agents that he signed this year, and Blake Martinez, Logan Ryan, James Bradbury, and Graham Gano. All of them have had major, and that's 14 of your 22 starters. Well, with the kicker, with the exception, have all been major contributions to this team. And you were going to talk about Leonard Williams and Daniel Jones, but he has done a good job. It's like, and I'll relate this to food, like I always do. You got to have all the ingredients to make the right
sauce.
Well, the sauce.
We'll go sauce because we're Italian. We like the marinara. We got 3 Italians. So you're gonna say something else?
I like the sauce.
We'll go marinara sauce. Go on, Joe. If you want to chime in, go. I mean,
listen.
How much of the credit?
Let's start with Leonard Williams, and we'll work our way backwards to David Gettleman, because Gettleman, like most people, including the Jets, saw something in Leonard Williams, and Leonard Williams got to the next level, and he couldn't get it done, and there was the trade for Leonard Williams, and it was like, why would anybody do that? And what we saw last year, again, and I believe both of you guys initially felt the same way I did, that, look, this guy was so impactful up the middle last year, led the team in pressures. He literally was the only disruptive force on that Giants defense, and he was always just a little late getting to the quarterback, didn't have the sacks. He wasn't impressing anybody. Here you go, a year later, linebackers who know how to play football, a secondary that can shut down a DK Metcalf type. Now, all of a sudden, those extra half second or that full second extra, Leonard's getting there making the plays. He's the rest. He was one of the main ingredients to this recipe. You put enough stuff to kick all around. Now you got yourself a stew, baby. I mean, it's exactly what they needed.
See, I would have gone with
bigger picture. Hold on, bigger picture, real quick. Look, everything David Gettleman has done, from hiring Joe Judge to firing
Pat Shurmur.
I hate Pat Shurmur. I won't even say I hate him that much.
I can't believe it. I was like, wait, is he thinking or is he just Matt? He just doesn't.
I wanted to say his name in a
I did it for you.
Respectful way. But so thank you. But yeah, I mean, he's pushed all the right buttons. I hated him when he moved Beckham. Absolutely hated him.
And I think I would say most Giant fans were.
I think, and the only thing you're eventually going to question after this season is if the Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones picks were right. And you're going to figure that in the Saquon pick, you're not going to figure that out this year.
No,
but you're going to start to question it because that's 2 years in a row of major injuries in time. And we know how running backs can fall off the shelf really fast.
Yes.
And especially, Joe, we talked about this beforehand. When you pick a running back in the top 5, or even in the first round,
top 3,
you're picking a gold jacket guy. That's the expectation when you pick in the top 5, that you're getting a gold jacket guy. Now with Daniel Jones, Joe, we've talked about this the past couple of weeks. How does he finish the season off? Does he finish it off strong, or does he fail in the moment? And if he fails in the moment, it's like, all right, well, he's not what we thought he was.
If there's anything that I could way for defending Daniel Jones is that even before his injury, he was performing well. It seemed like he was going in the right direction. He was progressing in the right direction, and it felt like he wasn't having any turnovers. I know he's got to deal with these injuries, and that's a concerning issue going forward, because as Giant fans, we were so spoiled to having a quarterback that we never had to worry about missing a game. So now we have to deal with that. But like you said, I wanted to relate this draft class to the 2007 draft class, which also went on to win a Super Bowl. Don't jump on me. I'm not saying the Giants are winning a Super Bowl, but you never know. If anything 2020 is showing, you never know. So I wanted to just go through the draft class of 2007, and then I wanted to just go through 2020's draft class. So Aaron Ross, major contributor, was a starting cornerback for them. Steve Smith had a big part in that Super Bowl game and throughout the season. Jay Alford sacked Brady. Zach Diassi had a 15-year career with the Giants. Kevin Boss was one of Eli's favorite targets that season.
Biggest catch against Ryan.
Michael Johnson had some part in the defense. And then Ahmad Bradshaw, who was the 7th rounder, you know what he did. He literally sent us to the playoffs that year against Buffalo, beating Buffalo, literally running off with the NY falling off his helmet. This year, Andrew Thomas looks like he's starting to get a groove of things, and that's another decision. Joe Judge, fire Mark Colombo, and look how that's turned out for this offensive line. Xavier McKinney, we haven't even seen him yet play. Matt Pert, before getting COVID, he was performing pretty well as well. Darnay Holmes had a great game against Seattle. Shane Lemieux, Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin. The only two guys that I really didn't see are TJ Brunston and Chris Williamson, haven't really played that much. But I should also forget that Mr. Irrelevant, Tay Crowder, who's had sacks, had a forced fumble recovered for a touchdown against Washington. I'm just saying, you look at this draft class, you look at these two draft classes, they have been major contributors for both these Giants teams. What other team in the league can sit here and say, well, we had about 8 of our 10 picks perform better than we expected? I mean, you'll have rookies that perform, but to have almost 80% of your rookies performing daily or weekly, each and every, and having some sort of impact for you, I mean, that's credit to Dave Gettleman.
Well,
there's two things that you need in order to do that. Number one, you have to have been a bad team.
Yeah.
Number two, you need really good coaching. Check. Teddy.
That's kind of where I was going. We've had these conversations with quarterback coaching thing. Remember we were talking about 2 weeks ago, and then we said, well, let's see how these guys do. Coaching, quarterback, dynamic duos, guys that kind of just feel like they're an extension of their arm on the field when they're quarterback. They always used to talk about, Brady Belichick. I mean, you could go back with the history of quarterbacks that have done well with great. It seems like every great quarterback had a great coach by his side, kind of like a boxer. Who is his manager and trainer? Not like Anthony Bones Jones, who was fat every time he showed up for a weight class.
More credit goes to Joe Judge. Joe Judge has got hired by Dave Gettleman and the Mara family.
When no one knew who Joe Judge was.
I remember flipping out at the idea that we had hired the special teams coordinator for the Patriots. I thought, could Dave Gettleman be a bigger idiot?
But again,
I was wrong.
I stand corrected.
But I told Trev this. I said, I like the special teams coordinator, Joe, over any other coordinator? Because he has to know everyone on the team, all 53 guys, because every guy is usually, except for the quarterback, partaking on the team. Special teams is the most important part of the game sometimes, and people forget about it. But Joe Judge, and here's another thing, and I will say this. You know who else was hired as a special teams coordinator for the head coach? John Harbaugh. He was the Eagles special teams coordinator for years under Andy Reid. Then he got hired for the Ravens. Look at how well he has performed for that Ravens organization since he's been there.
You got the peanut gallery over there?
My daughter keeps attacking me. She's asking me, my son's, they're all on the other side. My son's got my phone, and she thinks it's a game now. I don't know if you have any idea how close she's gotten. Nothing but stiff arm.
Are you giving her the Derrick Henry stiff arm?
I was just going to say, I'm giving her the Derrick Henry stiff arm, but she thinks it's hilarious, and she keeps coming back for more.
So Trev hit on the draft class, and he's 100% right, and we can bore you with all the stupid stats. We can tell you about the undrafted guys. We can tell you about the trades for the third-round pick from Isaiah, okay, Jabral Sheard that they picked up from the Jaguars practice squad. But here's another thing. The free agent guys. We always talk about free agency. Like, everyone gets so excited about free. Like, you see that guy that's on the free? We got to go get him. We got to pay $1,000 million for him. Blake Martinez, right? Linebacker. Bam. Hammer. That's a sledgehammer. Hit it on the head. Perfect pick. Been one of the best linebackers in the league. There's no question about it.
Bradbury.
Okay? Bradbury. Top 2, top 3, top 1 cornerback in the league. Bam. And when you talk about a team that couldn't stop the run, couldn't call a defensive play, and couldn't stop the pass, you hit it on the head for the 2 biggest punts. And then you hit a kicker. Listen, we've seen it. How important are kickers in this league? I know from friends that gamble all the time how many kicks get missed this year. Do you know how many games the Titans have lost this year because Duskowski has missed multiple kicks?
2. We
watch every week a kicker miss a field goal, multiple weeks. Look at the Dallas game the other day. If I don't even have to go that far, Dallas should have had a chance to win that game late in that fourth quarter. Zerline missed 3 field goals. When you know that you could put, it's like a closer in baseball. If you know you can put him on the field and he can make the kick, or he can close your game out and solidify your victory, that's huge. Listen, they used to say this. Other than Belichick and Brady, you know who the most important player on the Patriots dynasty was for the last 20 seasons? Vinatieri and Gostowski. How many games did those guys win for them in the clutch? That's huge. Have those guys, and then I'll say Logan Ryan to finish it off, because if Blake Martinez does not play this week, he will be the guy on the field.
He'll be the linebacking guy. He'll be the guy that's getting the call. So he'll be the quarterback of the defense. My thing is with the Giants is Joe Judge. It's a combination of everything. Dave Gettleman hitting on the draft picks. Dave Gettleman hitting on his signees. Joe Judge coming in, forming a cohesive, great, and together coaching staff. Jason Garrett has been better than we expected. I know he started off slow, but this whole Giant team, Jason Garrett's the perfect example of this Giant team. This whole Giant team started off slow. We were losing our minds each and every week early in the season. Jason Garrett has warmed up. He's starting to get the groove of things. Patrick Graham has been out of his mind this year. He's been one of the better defensive coordinators. Maybe should get a nominee for assistant coach of the year. He's been that damn good. It's just a combination of everything. But we have to remember, coming into
I guess he's not a Giant fan.
Greg the Leg is amazing too. Yeah, he's a Cowboy fan, right?
My man Tip, dude. Love this.
How many Dallas Cowboys fans could say the next comment that he just put? Not a lot. That's bravery, Michael. I respect it.
I love Mike Tipton because Mike Tipton is what I call a realist, and he is the opposite of what Jace Garcia is. No.
I know what you mean.
Whereas Tip can look and tell you what's good and what's bad, and Jace wears rose-colored glasses, and there's nothing wrong with being that way, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to call you out, Teddy, because about 3 weeks ago, Jace Garcia commented on this show, and he said Blake Martinez was the best linebacker in football, and you laughed him off the comment section.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
Here we are. Hold on. Here we are 3 weeks later, guy's playing out of his mind, and you said he's got to be considered one of the best. And here's what I would say. Here's what I would caution all Giants fans about. Teddy's tough. Teddy's never sold on the New York players until they do it. There's no benefit of the doubt from Teddy. You look at Jace, and he's, easily, right? If you asked him who's the best corner in football, it's Bradbury. Who's the best defensive tackle in football? It's Williams. He has no problem. He has no problem declaring Giant players to be great. There's just guys, there's got to be a happy medium where, look, it's been clear all year how good Bradbury's been playing. It's good how, and again, there's that, should we pay Williams all that money? Well, why wouldn't we? He's finally playing like everybody wanted him to. You want to keep him playing that way. Give him $20 million a year. That'll motivate him.
And if you want me to come in and intervene on that part, is look what coaching does, Joe. And we've talked about Blake Bortles, Blake Martinez. I love it. My thing is, and we talked about a couple times this already in the past couple weeks. That's what coaching can do. Just look at the Jets organization right now. Everybody on that team, starting with Sam Darnold, is almost laughable because the coaching staff is laughable. And if you don't want to believe that, just go watch the game, the last 15 seconds of the game last week against Las Vegas.
The only guy that's played well for them is Beckett.
And that's what I'm trying to say is that's what coaching can do in this league. All of a sudden now, Leonard Williams, who started off slow with the Jets early on in his career, had high praise. I also said congratulations. You also said that Utah was the best team in college football last year, and then they got their asses kicked by Oregon. So good for you. We all got to be wrong sometime.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me just say something. And I love Jace, and I ripped Jace earlier on another show. But when you say a lot of crazy things that don't happen,
but they are 20.
When you say things like that, it's hard to take you seriously because it's like, oh, you're just shooting from the hip. You're just guessing. Again, when I say I think the Jaguars are going to win a game, I'm not saying it because I feel it in my belly. I watch them play and I think, oh, maybe this team's going to find the right team and they're going to pull one of these out.
You love Mike Glennon.
And because Mike Glennon's a great.
Joe, it's like when you ask Trevor why Ohio State is the fourth best team in football, and he just
said they are
just because they are.
No, anyways,
Exactly. When you're look, if you're going to say something, you got to explain it. And this is what I told Jace. I told Jace this literally back when he said that they would go on and win. Well, tell me, how do they do it? Because again, last week I told you what the score of the game was going to be in Seattle. You know, I mean, literally, the game plan had to be. And Teddy, we talked about it, whether the pressure was on the offense or the defense. The defense, I had no doubt would keep Seattle under 16 points. I said that was going to happen. The only concern I had, and the reason why
the offense put up more than that.
Right. Three nights earlier than when we talked about it Saturday, I said on John about the G-men to Jace, I love the Giants. I think they're going to win. I don't have faith that the offense is going to score more than 16 and win.
So, Joe, here's my thing, though, and I'm not trying to go backwards on the thing, but here's the thing. The pressure on the defense to uphold your thought process on that, meaning to play well, right? Knowing that the offense doesn't have Daniel Jones. So when you don't have your starting quarterback, that puts more pressure on the defense to uphold what you think they are going to do, meaning 16 points on Seattle. That's pressure, because if you don't uphold that standard of what we think you are, you have no chance. And that's why I went with the defense, because I'm like, here's the thing. You don't have your starting quarterback. You don't have Saquon Barkley. Now, we haven't had Saquon all season, so I'm not going to use that as an excuse. But not having your starter quarterback, that's so much more pressure on the defense to play up to a standard that you expect. And that it's like, I want you to play at 110%, which there's no such thing as 110%. But we say that like you have extra. No, we just want you to play to your full capacity and play well. And they did that. And I think there's such a pressure on that team. Now, if Daniel Jones comes back, it's not that there's less pressure on the defense this week. I think that now we have the expectation that they are going to do it. It's a standard that they're going to uphold week in and week out. And I'm glad.
I was already there. I was already there with the defense. I felt that, again, having watched this defense, having watched other games the Seahawks played, particularly when it came to the Rams, which, again, it's the way their defense, very similar to the Giants.
Every time they play somebody, they confuse the hell out of them. Even the great Sean McVay was confused. That Rams offense looked confused.
And so my thought was, look, the defense just has to go out there and do its job.
Yeah. So is this more on Joe Judgment? No. I'm going to say.
Hold on. Again, listen, it was incumbent on the offense because, again, Ted, not only did they have to score at least one more point than Seattle, but more important, like I said, was if you're just going to 3-and-out the whole first half, the defense is screwed. They're great. But if they're out there for 42 minutes of this game, there's no way that they're not going to get exposed at some point when you see guys like DK Metcalf. One catch at one point. Think about 42 minutes of football on offense, what that would have looked like. At some point, he's breaking something. And it's not the defense's fault. It's the bend, and then finally you're going to break a little bit. So the pressure was on Colt McCoy, not necessarily to win the game or to score a ton of points, but can you at least give this defense a breather? Can you at least get a couple of first downs, even if it's a 6-play drive that goes 22 yards, just so that the defense can sit, breathe, get some water, talk about what they're seeing, what kind of adjustments is Russ going to make? They could not have executed any better. And I'll say one other thing. Teddy pointed this out earlier, and I think it's brilliant, and I don't think enough people pay attention to this around football. If you do watch every single game around the league, you will see and it's stunning when there's literally, this is your only job. Punting and kicking. That's all those guys work on is punting and kicking. And to see how many kicks are blocked, how many punt returns go for big gains, it blows my, like, that is your only job. How in God's name are there so many mistakes in special teams all around football? It's shocking, and it just goes to show there's not enough good special teams coaches out there, that sometimes this ends up just being a job that you give to somebody so you can move them up a staff to put them in a different position. I think teams should really take a look at their special teams because it's killing a lot of teams.
Well, I mean, even the past couple of years, you can see the Giants have had a terrible special teams. I mean, when's the last time you could say, the Giants feel, with Rosas, it's been a struggle. So to answer this question, you got to give a lot of credit to Dave Gettleman. He's done a fabulous job of drafting, picking up these pieces, free agency trade, But you also got to give credit to the coaching staff and Joe Judge, because you got to put the pieces in the right places. And that's what Joe Judge has done. And that's why this team is gelling on all cylinders. And I'm glad you brought up Colt McCoy and you talked about Seattle and last week's game, because I want to move on to this week's game and talk about Daniel Jones, because he's still dealing with an injury. I know the reports say he's 90-95% ready to go, but should the Giants hold off of bringing DJ back if he's not 1,000% ready? Because we saw what Colt McCoy can do. We saw what that team did with Colt McCoy last week against a better team in the Seattle Seahawks. On the road, he made the throws when needed. They ran the football effectively in the second half, and pretty much, they never had an answer. And then their defense, like we've said, got after Russell Wilson. They shut that great high-octane offense for pretty much most of the game, other than that one touchdown to Chris Carson. Why do we have to bring back DJ, knowing that this is a very winnable game? We know this is. Don't say. It's a game. No. It's not a very winnable game. Yes, it is. It is every game.
Why is it a very winnable
Because
game?
the Giants just proved that they can play with anybody in the NFL.
But you can't say
yes, it is. It's a very winnable game, but it's a losable game as well. That's what I'm trying to say. Every remaining game left on the Giants' schedule, and even with Washington, is a losable game, but a very winnable game. They can beat the Cardinals. They could beat the Browns. They could beat the Ravens, and they certainly could beat the Cowboys. They proved it. They can hang with anybody in the league this year, and now they finally are starting to get it all together and hit their stride when it matters most. And that's what they're doing. They went into Seattle, a hostile environment that nobody can ever win, and they've been undefeated. I know there's no fans, but they've other than the Steelers, both home teams finally lost their first home games last week in the Steelers in Seattle. So it must be something. I don't care if it's fans or not. Must be something. The Giants don't need to bring back DJ unless I know the player is going to be like, I'm ready to go. That's just being him, the competitor. But we saw the Giants are doable on offense and defense. They can play enough and win still, even without DJ.
I appreciated your slip of the tongue when you said 1,000,000%, because I knew what you meant. And listen, I think when it comes to hamstring injuries, there's 100% or there's you shouldn't play.
100,000%.
Because 98% your hammy is good is bad.
All it takes is one little
one tweak, one wrong step, one throw that you can't quite follow through. And it comes in a big moment where you suddenly can't push off. You blow the hammy again, and the ball floats, gets picked, and comes back for 6. That's problematic. Here's why it's a winnable game. 21-17, 28, and the 28 was in a blowout. This Cardinals team was very good earlier in the year. Please stop. This is the same thing with Seattle. This is the same exact thing. 4 weeks ago, we were talking about Russell Wilson as being an MVP candidate. If you're still saying that, then you're not watching football.
He's got 4 touchdown passes in the last 4 games.
It's a two-man race in that.
Right. If you're watching Kyler Murray and the Cardinals the last couple weeks, and you think that's a really good football team, then you're being dishonest with yourself. So the Giants are playing great, and the Giants have the tools to. They're a very winnable game. Now, could they lose this? Well, certainly. Certainly, Kyler Murray could have the game of his life. He could throw for 300 yards and run for $120, account for 4 touchdowns. The Giants probably lose that game.
I'd be shocked.
So certainly losable. Putting it like this, Kyler Murray, much like Russ last week, has given me no reason to assume that this rejuvenation is about to happen against this defense. And look, I have generally used the Rams as my comparison defense. And you go, they just put 28 up on the Rams. Well, they were getting killed in that game. I mean, it was just throwing the football down the field to try to claw your way back in. It wasn't as close as 38-28 indicated.
Exactly. Go look at the Ravens game. The most points they've given up this season was against the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you remember that game early in week 4 or 5, the Ravens were up by like 20-something points. And then the Philly had a late charge in the second half to make it close. So, Joe, this is what I was right, Joe.
I never said I had faith. I just said that I didn't have faith. I always have faith in the Giants. I just didn't have faith in you picking them for fantasy.
Trevor, listen, having faith in Colt McCoy doesn't mean thinking that Colt McCoy is going to lead the Giants to victory. It means that we saw enough from Colt McCoy. He was responsible with the football. Like I said, he got them. They got first downs.
And when they asked him to make the throws, he made the throws.
Now, Joe, remember I was trying to remember exactly. So I had Trev look it up while you were just talking. I said, so pull up already up Arizona's schedule, right? Since October 19th, when they crushed Dallas 38-10. They beat Seattle on that 37-34 overtime game. And if you remember, Russell Wilson threw 3 picks in that game. Very uncharacteristic of Russell Wilson. He had a really bad fourth quarter, and they were up by double digits going into the fourth quarter. So Seattle blew that game. So I give Arizona some credit, but they should have lost that game on normal sense. Then they got beat by Miami. Then the miracle against Buffalo, and then they've lost 3 straight. So if I really look at that,
take away that Hail Mary.
They could be like opposite of the Giants, lost 5 straight. If you take away just the Hail Mary and you give Seattle the credit, they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they've lost 4 out of 5, but they would have lost 5 straight. How seriously is this Arizona good team right now?
Right. This is what I've been saying. Again, if you I always do it. I say I throw out the Steelers game because it was 10, and I throw out the Niners game because obviously that was a disaster.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could argue that the Giants could very well be 8-3 this year if they had finished those games.
Yeah.
Looking at how the Cardinals did finish their games, had it been the opposite, I've got them as a 4-8 football team.
Maybe even worse.
But yes, and potentially worse. So
here's the thing: we fall into these videos. Listen, we love Kyler Murray, we love Russell Wilson. I really do. I'm a true fan of them. I appreciate them. We love when you see Kyler Murray throw the Hail Mary, run around, scramble. It's great, but the consistency of this team in the Arizona Cardinals has not been there. We fall in love with all these. I'm not going to use you against you, but the trick plays, Joe. It's like we get in love with the dunks and these highlights, but how are you just nitty-gritty fundamental team? Like the Giants are not flashy, right? You're like, why don't they do trick plays? Because it's not their style.
They've never been flat.
They are going to be plain Jane, bro. They're going to come in. They're not going to come in with the flashy suit. They're not going to come in with the high-pitched voice and the throw here and the gel and everything. They're going to come in just regular plain Jane, but they're going to beat you at your own game. And that's what the Giants do. Now, to the question, because I have an answer, should the Giants hold Daniel Jones back? That's a decision of the coaching staff. Should they? I think not if he's ready to play. But if I'm a Giant coach and I'm saying I'm Joe Judge, I have both quarterbacks ready to go on game day. Colt McCoy, you better be ready to go because you're because I know in the back of you say you're always in the back of your mind should always ready to play. Do you think most of the guys that are playing behind Mahomes and Rodgers are really thinking that every game? Not really. How seriously do they take it? Colt McCoy, you be ready to play because if we need you, we're going to have to put you in.
If the Giants were – because, like I said, this is a very winnable game for the Giants. We've seen that they can play with anybody. Let's make sure that Daniel Jones is 100% because if he is the answer at quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years, you want to make sure that he's ready to go. And I know he's going to come in and say, I'm ready to go. I'm good to go. That's what any competitor says. But like I said, all it takes is one little tweak, and he's done for the year. And then the Giants are going to be playing with Colt McCoy, and the chances with that defense, it could change drastically. So the Giants have to play it smart. If he's ready to go, if he truly believes he's ready to go and that coaching staff believes, then okay, go ahead. But they have to make sure. My
biggest issue with the Saints the last few weeks has been Tyson Hill is the quarterback. I don't think they're as good a football team, and I think if I know Breeze will be back, if that was the team they were bringing to the postseason, I would be very concerned about the Saints.
With Taysom Hill or Drew Brees?
Taysom Hill.
That's what I'm saying. But
again,
it's more dangerous to me than I've been saying.
Yeah, but I would not rush Breeze back.
They don't need to. They don't need to rush Breeze back. Yeah. And last week, look, they did a better job of finding ways to get the ball to Alvin Kamara, which hadn't happened the first couple of weeks with Hill at quarterback.
Peyton has really started to open the offense a little bit more. Like when a rookie quarterback, you start basic and then you build and you build by the end of the season, the playbook's fully open. You're going to start to see Taysom Hill, that playbook be open a lot more. He has been much better than people have projected as a passer. Listen, I think with Taysom Hill, it makes
it's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie.
Listen, this is what we always talk about. Doesn't it make him electric? Yeah, Taysom Hill makes him electric, but does it make them better?
No.
I think not because
I think it makes it more dangerous.
At the end of the day, though, when you're going to go against Aaron Rodgers, or maybe Tom Brady, or even Russell Wilson in the playoffs, your quarterback's going to have to make a throw. And is Taysom Hill going to be able to make that throw? Who do you have more faith in? Joe, we've talked about this privately. Do you have more faith on 3rd and 5 that Breeze is going to make the right pass, or is Taysom Hill not going to be able to make the right pass and have to run it and is going to fall short?
I trust Taysom Hill.
You don't.
I do because I've seen Joe.
Based on what? Based on what big game has Taysom Hill made a big play to win a game?
He can run,
but to make the throw.
To make the throw.
That's not what we just said. Did anybody who just said run? We just talked about making a pass on 3rd and 5.
I still won't say Drew Brees. I've seen enough of Drew Brees the past 4 years. This team was the most talented team in the NFL, with the exception of the Kansas City Chiefs, the past 4 years, and they've lost each and every freaking year. They should have won at least 1 or 2 Super Bowls.
So you think Taysom Hill's the difference maker? Taysom Hill's what's been...
I've been saying that.
Hold on. Drew Brees has been holding back the Saints the last 4 years. Is that what you're saying? Say it.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah, of course I am. Yes, I have. I really do believe that. Because with a team
that down.
Write it down, please. Write it down on your little handy-dandy notebook. I'm going to write it down, too.
Listen, if you're going to be honest with you, you should just bring up the stats and say the last 2 playoff games, he's got outplayed by Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins outplayed him in the playoff game last year, and it looked like he was old last year. He didn't look like
I don't buy into Drew Brees. I'm sorry.
But I think
I'm over Brees. If everybody wants to rip freaking Tom Brady because he's old and he looks old, but we want to give a pass to Drew Brees because, he's going to make
2 games ago, Alvin Kamara got 7 touches and 15 yards in the game.
I have a problem with that personally, because you can't let a weapon of his stature just go MIA. You can't have that. That should not be allowed. And
I still think they're going to struggle to get the ball to Kamara the way that Breeze does it, because it's a different offense. He's got a different skill set. I'm not saying that Hill's a bad passer or a bad quarterback, but come crunch time, I want a guy who's been doing it forever. Not a guy who was a tight end for a whole bunch of time. A guy who's been a quarterback the whole time. That's who I want.
Well, that same quarterback that's gotten outplayed by Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff still hasn't won that precious Super Bowl that he's been desperately wanting. That you could take him. That's fine. But you might be going home early. I need to see it, Taysom Hill. I'm saying they should go check it out because it's been working. The Saints are the most dangerous team maybe in the NFL right now. That defense is getting hot, and I know because, they're going to get the Hall of Famer back. The guy can't even throw freaking longer than 15 yards. He made the
2020 NFL. This isn't the 90s.
Raiders in week 2 or 3 when they had the Monday night game look like the 85 Bears because he couldn't throw the ball. He can't stretch the field. You need to find a quarterback that can stretch the field in today's game. He can't do that. So I'm not buying. And I'm sorry, if you're going to buy with the Drew Brees, throwing the slants to Michael Thomas, that's nice. But guess what? That's why they haven't won a Super Bowl still. They still haven't won a Super Bowl. Even with all that talent, even with all that great coaching, they haven't won with the great Drew Brees.
I've got news for you.
I'll take my chances.
I got news for you. This isn't Bledsoe Brady.
I know that.
As soon as Brees comes back, Hill's back on the bench in gimmick plays. So settle down with that crazy stuff. And maybe it is.
It's stupid. It's not.
You call Tom Benson and you tell him.
You got his number?
I'll get it for you. And you tell him that Peyton doesn't know what he's talking about, and we need Hill in the game to win a Super Bowl.
If I call Tom Benson, Tom, I want to come down there, take me to some nice
restaurant. Call him TB. He likes that.
We're watching Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Let me tell you, we gotta go to New Orleans. That food looks amazing. I would love to go to a game there because it's just amazing.
Dude, they were making this shrimp po' boy, Joe. Oh my God, it was.
I've been to New Orleans.
I want to go.
I love me a po' boy, and I had alligator while I was there. And
we had alligator bites. It tastes just like chicken. Why does everything always taste like chicken?
I don't know.
Chicken's life.
Yeah, chicken is life.
Baby. But that's all I'm trying to say with the whole Taysom Hill and Drew Brees debate. I'll take my chances with Taysom Hill because I've seen enough 3 straight years of Drew Brees not coming up big when mattered most.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
You know it's going to be a great point, and we'll talk about it next week.
Oh, next week. Massive game next week.
Chiefs, Saints, Joe, in New Orleans, Taysom Hill versus Mahomes, which will be a good kind of building block. We can go back to this next week and see how Taysom Hill plays. And if he plays well against Mahomes, against a real team.
Hey, Joe, there's CMG's game of the week if you want to just put a little teaser already in for you.
Yeah, I do, but I just want to say something before we get there.
Go ahead, Joey.
Do you remember the year 2010?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I remember it 10 years
course.
ago.
I was in high school.
Who
I had
won the
no
Super
faith.
Bowl?
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl.
Who was the MVP?
No, that year?
Yeah.
Was Peyton Manning?
No, this is when
No, 2010?
2010, the Saints.
Saints won the Super Bowl.
they beat the Colts.
Saints.
They beat the Colts.
Drew Brees was the MVP.
Drew Brees, Super Bowl record. Super Bowl record, 32 completions. MVP of the Super Bowl.
Joe, you're talking about 10 years ago, bro. Come on. It's like your Gary argument.
I just said I want a quarterback who's been there and done it.
Okay.
That's where
your argument is a guy who started 3 games and just last week figured out how to get the ball to their best player. You think that's the recipe for a Super Bowl, as opposed to a guy who's literally got the trophy for when he was the MVP of the biggest game. Are you serious?
All right, hold on. Let me look at the New Orleans Saints last 3 years in the postseason. I'll give you all those stats. You want to play stats? You want to play stats? You want to go toe-to-toe with the king?
Listen, it was the referee's fault.
I need talk, Ted. Do what you do best. Talk.
Watching you guys argue is so fun because
I'm telling you, me and it's literally it's gold.
Here's gold. I'll tell you what you just posted, Joe. The game of the week, Steelers Bills. This is looking 10 years in the mirror. This is what Big Ben used to be, Josh Allen. What he has done for the Bills is what Ben Roethlisberger was 10 years for the Steelers. My biggest thing with this is, and I told Trev this, the Steelers for 3 straight consecutive weeks have thrown the ball 50-plus times.
Ain't winning that way.
When you get to the playoffs, you're not going to win throwing the ball 50 times a game. Joe, they posted a stat. I wish I had it. I didn't get to save it on my computer. Big play, baby! I dropped it. Sorry.
It's at halftime, you idiot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's the highlight?
Look at Alabama. Alabama's already up 35 points, baby. Best team in college football. I want to clarify that, all you college football guys, because I'm an Ohio State guy.
So with that being said, it was a stat that when Ben Roethlisberger in his career throws the ball 35 times or less, he has like a 670, almost 70 winning percentage. When he throws the ball 35 plus times, 50% winning percentage. We talk about this all the time. You can't throw the ball 40, 50 times and think you're going to win in the playoffs. It just doesn't happen. You got to be able to run the football. Now, if Trevor wanted to have a good argument, he could say that Taysom Hill being on the Saints gives them a more dynamic offense because of the ability to run the ball, not only Alvin Kamara, but him, which controls the clock, which means they can eat up more time, which means Rodgers and guys like Mahomes that won't be on the field as much, where Breeze doesn't bring that extra element. Yeah, he can dink and dunk.
All right, Joe, here you go.
But here you go.
I'm going to come back to you. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you
Tell me the story while I look at this picture.
Okay, well, the last time I saw Drew Brees in the playoffs, he actually went 26-33. Real nice, right, Joe? Sounds sexy. Oh, well, he only had 208 yards. You know he got outperformed by Kirk Cousins. So you could talk about your 10 years ago. Look, I was a different person 10 years ago. I didn't have hair like this. I didn't have a beard like this. You could keep showing that picture. But Drew Brees had hair like me back in the day.
He also got lucky on the outside kick.
I'm sure you still had flawed arguments then 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Just like your flawed argument with Gary Sanchez 4 years ago? Don't start with me. That's what I'm trying to say. You're talking about 10 years ago. You're living in the past. I'm living now. Yeah. What is that? Yeah, is that Drew Brees?
Taysom Hill.
Oh, that's Taysom Hill. Congratulations. You found one play
of Taysom Hill. First of all, Taysom Hill didn't play against the Rams. That was a substitute. Brees was a starting quarterback.
Oh, see, that's a fake news picture.
No, that's him.
See what you're doing, Joe? You're posting
him after he made a reception. He was tackled.
Joe,
he's a tight end.
Joe, if you're going to post pictures and post stuff, you can't post fake news stuff on this show. Okay,
I typed in Tyson Hill, and all I got was pictures of him as a tight end.
Wow, did you see what the guy from the Wayne train will dominate the Cards? 200 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns.
I like it, Sketchy.
Wow, thank you. All right, I like it. I don't know about who is that guy from like the 1800s?
He's a time traveler from
Look at that beard.
That was 10 years ago.
Look at that beard, though. But that's what I'm trying to say. Let's talk about this Bills. We'll close out with this because there was a lot of games we could have picked from. You could have picked the Saints and Dolphins. You could have picked the Monday night game.
Hold on, slow down.
Saints, Dolphins.
Saints are playing the Eagles.
See what happened? I got the Saints on my mind.
Listen, stop.
Chiefs and Dolphins.
We'll see what happens.
I know.
He tries to be like me and go really fast.
That's the problem. I shouldn't be like him. I screw up when I become him. Just be me. Just be me. That's what I should.
Gotta be me.
So let's get into the game of the week, which is the Steelers and Bills. Here's my thing, plain and simple. the Steelers, I've been high on all year. They might be, and Colin Cowherd made a great point. They are last year's version of New England Patriots. They can't run the ball. They literally have no run game. You aren't winning with, I was going to say Drew Brees, Big Ben. I got it stuck in my head now, Joe. I'm ready to go now. There's no way they're going to win with Big Ben throwing over 50 times. It's just not. It's not the right
Steelers football.
No, it's
Steelers
not.
Football is Giant football. Run the ball, play solid defense, kick the crap out of the next guy, and play action pass. That's when they won. Think about this.
100%.
Me and Pat were talking about this on the car ride home. When's the last time, now if you take the Chiefs out of the equation last year with Tyreek Hill, when's the last time a team won a Super Bowl that had a top 3 receiver? It was like Jerry Rice. You can't name him. The Steelers never won with Antonio Brown. The Falcons didn't win with Julio.
It wasn't the Saints in 2010 either.
The teams that win don't have a top target like that. You don't have an impactful top receiver. Listen, the Bills made the move for this reason. They traded multiple picks to go get Stephon Diggs, who's been an impactful player. They went to go get Cole Beasley for them. All right, they put great pieces around Josh Allen. Josh Allen, Joe, if you want to make the argument again, Josh Allen has jumped right back into the MVP consideration.
Nah, it's a 2-man race.
Listen, if he finishes strong, he beats the Patriots and Steelers in the next couple weeks. He'll finish third.
Are we looking at a clone of Big Ben right now? A 2.0 version, just a more athletic version of Big Ben with Josh Allen, because he's got all the tools, and we really saw it on display on the Monday night game. He made some of the nicest throws I've ever seen. Touch passes, throwing it over defender. He threw one between, I think it was Fred Warner's hands, a rocket right into, I forgot who the receiver was, but it was just a perfect, beautifully thrown ball.
Herbert's got a better arm than Josh Allen.
You son of a gun. I hate that. I hate that you do this. We just had our argument. We don't need another one. I'm done with the arguments today.
Here's the thing with Josh Allen. Josh Allen coming into that draft class might have been the most talented quarterback coming out of the draft class, and he had the potential. If you remember, we were reading an article where the Browns were thinking about taking him at 1, but there were so many question marks because of his accuracy. And Terry Bradshaw was on the show the other night and was talking about accuracy, and he goes, "We've never questioned Josh Allen's athleticism, his ability to throw the ball." But Troy Aikman once said this before, and it's 100% true. If you can predict where the ball is going to go, meaning you can put the ball anywhere you want, that is the best quality a quarterback can have. If you can literally tell me and put the ball where doesn't matter about the speed of the ball, velocity, how hard you throw it, how soft you throw it. If you can be accurate and hit your spots, it's like pitching. Great pitching beats great hitting. If you can mark your spots on the strike zone, I don't care how good of a hitter is, you are still going to strike out. Josh Allen, we know, has a cannon for an arm, but his ability now to start to be accurate and efficient and move the ball down the field, instead of just throwing the 70-yard bombs, he can hit that 5-yard out route. He can hit that slant route. He can throw it between double coverage. It adds such an element to the Bills that they haven't had in years since Jim Kelly. And that's the reason why the Bills hadn't won a Monday Night Football game since 1999 when they beat the Miami Dolphins. Demaryius Thomas, 2016. He was good. I don't know if I put him in the top 3, but I will also say this. Maybe he was a product of Peyton Manning, because after Peyton Manning, he fell off the cliff. So Demaryius Thomas, I know, I had him in fantasy. He was a top 5 receiver, but so was Emmanuel Sanders. But is that a product of Peyton Manning being your quarterback? Because me and Trev say this. DeAndre Hopkins had Brian Hoyer, had friggin' Matt Schaub, had no names, and was still putting up 100 catches a year and 1,200 yards. I'm just saying, are you a product of the system?
Here's what I wanted to say quickly.
But good point, Jared. Love it.
Joe, before you get into your point, I just want to say, you see this matchup, and it seems like one team's going in the right direction with the Bills, and then you see the Steelers. And I know they lost last week to Washington.
They should be 10-2. They should be Arizona.
Yeah, they should have beat Arizona.
They could be fighting for a number 1 seed.
You look at the Steelers. They lost to Washington last week, but this felt like it was coming. It was on the brisk of a defeat. They struggled against Baltimore. They struggled against Jacksonville. They struggled offensively, I should specifically say. We know what their defense is, and they've been decimated with some big injuries, but their defense is still one of the best, if not the best, in the game. But this offense has gotten away, and Ted, you said it. You hit it right on the nail. They've gotten away from Pittsburgh Steeler football, which the Giants have gotten back to New York Giant football. That's why it's working for the Giants. The Steelers are getting away from this. They're throwing the ball 50 times. Big Ben, maybe 6 years ago, yes. Okay, I get it. But the Steelers, just like the Giants, have always been known, great defense, a dominant running attack, and solid quarterback play. And you don't see no running attack. And if you're a Steelers fan, you're nervous going into the playoffs as maybe the number 1 seed because you could be one and done. Because if anything about playoffs, I know you got great quarterback play, but you need to run the football. If you can't run the football, whether it's a regular season game or a postseason game, the results are not going to be what you expect. Joseph?
Well, let me start with Josh Allen. You know, I've been high on him.
Are you back on the train now? Are you back on it?
I mean, listen, fairly, I had to tap the brakes on that because he was not playing elite. But if you look at the season that this team's had, other than the game against the Titans that got out of hand early and in a big way, the Chiefs game was close. They lost by 2 points to the Cardinals. They've only lost to really good teams. The Cardinals were playing really good football back then. That was right about where they stopped hitting 30 points a game, incidentally, Kyler and company. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, as you said, puts the ball where he wants it, is a great mobile quarterback. When I tell you I don't like Herbert and Mayfield and Burrow, it's because I don't see that. I see it in Daniel Jones, and as I told you, the stat's there, the dime. It's a literal stat that the NFL keeps. Jones is the best at getting balls where they're supposed to be. Josh Allen came out of college, 55% completion rate, because he played for a crappy college with crappy receivers. So did Daniel Jones.
Also,
and again,
most of his players had left. 7 of his 11 starters had left his senior season. Joe, I got to go after this. I'm not contradicting myself because, sorry, Tyreek Hill was not a top 3 receiver last year. And he's not a product of Mahomes. Because
even before Mahomes,
before that,
he was really good.
Tyreek Hill, I did not put as a top 3 receiver last year. And I also said before the statement that Tyreek Hill, I didn't even consider him last year with Mahomes. Couldn't say Hill is a product of Mahomes. Top receivers and Moss, if not Thomas. Moss who? Randy Moss? Randy Moss never won a Super Bowl.
They didn't win a Super Bowl.
And who's Thomas? Demaryius Thomas? Yeah, he was never a top 3 receiver.
I wouldn't have put Demaryius Thomas as a top 3 receiver at the time.
And Tyreek Hill now has been – but really, Joe, when you think of Tyreek Hill, do you honestly think – fantasy, football, I don't give a crap what you're thinking. Do you think Tyreek Hill is a top 3 receiver?
No.
No.
I mean, I don't. He seems more like to me a product of being in the system and having a great quarterback. And he's got blazing speed. And his hands have certainly got better. I don't know if I'd say he's one of the best 3 pairs of hands in the league.
Well, because I don't think so. My argument with this is, and I know, and I love the back and forth, is when I look at DeAndre Hopkins, Trev said, look at what DeAndre Hopkins when he played for the Texans when they had no quarterback before Deshaun Watson. You know what I mean? Like, are you still great with no one? Like Randy Moss was great all through his career. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. But are you just great without him?
Look at Odell Beckham Jr. He was great with Eli Manning. He went to the Browns. He hasn't been really good. He hasn't been elite like he was with the Giants. Just saying. Not trying to take shots at anybody, but just stiff arming. Are you Derrick Henry in again?
This is my 5-year-old son at the end of my left arm, and he's not only getting the stiff arm to the face, he actually is really enjoying it.
He likes to get. So he's like running into the chutes.
Yes,
he's gonna be a football
keeps
player.
coming, and he just keeps getting the stiff arm, and he for some reason loves it.
Welker was not a top 3 receiver.
Stop. See, this is where you lose your argument. Stick the boxing. Welker stopped. Wasn't even the best receiver on the team. Sorry, Welker. Welker is a top 3 receiver.
Was never.
That's where you lose. That's where you lose your argument.
He was probably
no. Look, this is where you start to get confused with fantasy and reality.
Well, he wasn't even a top 3 fantasy.
No.
Hold on.
Slow down. Go ahead.
Look, what the guy was averaging like 100 catches a year.
Yeah, 110.
I mean, 120. You could argue, based on the numbers, consistently that's a great player, but we know he's not. There you go. So what Jared's saying is Welker was a product of a system. Totally get it.
No, Welker did because he went to Denver and it was actually really productive with Peyton Manning. But you could say the product of Peyton Manning.
But Welker would be productive anywhere with anybody.
Yeah, because he was good with Miami when they had no quarterback.
Right.
That's why
but not because he was a great receiver. because he was a great pair of hands, good possession guy. When we talk about elite wide receivers, what are we talking about?
We say a guy that could take over a game.
You're talking about Jerry Rice. You're talking about Marvin Harrison.
Randy Moss.
Listen, this is the problem: is when we're like, who's the three best? The three best. What?
In football,
listen. In boxing, there's a champion. There's not who's the five best. Why are we trying to figure who's the three best receivers? I don't know. Who's the one best? Probably Davante Adams.
Right now, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it longer than most of the other guys. So,
because Holden fell off. DeAndre hasn't had 100 yards in like 4 straight weeks. He's struggling.
You could hold up every season of Wes Welker's career.
Yep.
And they'd be really impressive. And probably statistically might be more impressive than Davante Adams. But as you just said, who's going to dominate and take over a game? Who could survive being the only receiver the quarterback has to throw to? Davante Adams can do it, and not a lot of other people can.
Mind you, he's having a rant, and he's still stiff-arming his son right now, which is that's a multitasker right there.
No, Joe, you're 100% right on the Davante Adams because they have no number 2.
DK is emerging as a guy that's going to. Yes, he's emerging.
We got to stop. We got to stop trying to figure out the top 5. It doesn't matter. There's generally a number 1, and then there's everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And the statement that Trevor said the other day about Davante, if he was even healthy for all the games, he missed 2 games this season, and his numbers are still incredible.
Yeah, so you're right. Boxing's a poor example. What I mean to say is,
Joe, stick to baseball.
No, Joe. No, you are right.
I know I'm right, but listen, when you start
pound boxer, that's why they rank him, and there's a number 1 pound boxer.
Correct. Same thing here.
There's still a best. Just like John Jones is the best mixed martial arts.
Like, how about this?
And the Steelers,
ever. Like the Steelers, since we're talking about this, the Steelers had a true number 1 who could take over a game, Antonio Brown. They had that. That's what a number 1 receiver is. That's a guy that can take over a game at any point in the game. Whether it was special teams or whether it was a receiver, he can take over a game. And that's when we think of elite receivers, when we think of the best receiver, we think of guys that could take over a game. I mean, how can you not put in Tyreek Hill when you think about that statement then? Because easily with look at the Tampa game. One freaking quarter, he had 200 yards. He can take over a game at any moment because of that speed. So if anything, Tyreek Hill has to be in the debate because at any point, just throw him the ball and he could take over a game purely based off of his speed. Like Davante Adams, there's certain receivers. Davante Adams, 100% agree. Julio a couple years ago, but he's fallen off. DeAndre, I would say DeAndre still, but he's been struggling. But the Cardinals' offense as a whole has been struggling. Even Kyler Murray. That's why they're going backwards right now. But Tyreek Hill has potential to change a game, plain and simple, purely because of his speed. But I'm not saying if I had to put Tyreek Hill, he'd be right outside my top 3. So pound for pound receiver there's my.
Look, I think if you were to say pound for pound, then I would say a guy like Wes Welker certainly would have been in the conversation. Obviously not now, but 4 or 5 years ago, a guy like that, of course he would have been. But that's not what we're trying to figure out. If we were being honest, you would say that Wes Welker was the best receiver in football. If you were being honest, if you were basing it on numbers and production, you could argue that guy was the most valuable and best wide receiver, but that's not how we do this.
It's the same thing.
Right, because Wes Welker didn't dominate games. Nobody was like, we got to stop Wes Welker. I mean, Wes Welker's open because nobody covers Wes Welker.
Yeah, because he was going against linebackers. He was quicker, faster, and
Another great example, just before we get back to that game, is Marvin Harrison. He was always a guy that was never probably considered one of the top 3 receivers in the game, but a guy that always had. I mean, remember how many receiving? I mean, he has the most.
He also had Reggie Wayne and Dallas Clark and Edgerrin James and Peyton Manning.
That's true.
That's
true.
I feel like Jared's arguing with me in the comments, and I'm agreeing with you, Jared. I'm saying the whole debate over who the top 1, 2, it's stupid. It's a stupid debate. Davante Adams is the best wide receiver. Everyone else is trying to supplant him. I don't care who's number 2. I don't care who's number. Doesn't make a difference.
I love how I totally turned this show from the Bills Steelers to who's the number 1 receiver in this league. But I will say this: having a number 1 receiver on this team for the Bills has made it incredible
difference. Absolutely.
Has really helped Josh Allen. And we talk about this all the time with young quarterbacks, getting players, talented players surrounding them, because they're only as good as the talent around them. I mean, listen, not everyone is Mahomes or Watson. I mean, listen, no one's talking about Deshaun Watson, but if you look at statistically, he's having one of the best seasons he's ever had, and he's got no one. And he just lost his number 1 receiver for the season in Will Fuller.
And his running back.
Look, it just goes to show you how important having a number 1 receiver is to most quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that can listen.
Most quarterbacks in most systems need a number 1.
Gabriel Davis. So, listen, at the end of this game, when I thought about the Bills, you think about defense first. Well, their defense hasn't been as good as it has been the past 2 seasons. Statistically, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know it for a fact because I wouldn't make the statement. They are not statistically as good defense. You haven't talked about Tre'Davious White this year as you did last year. Remember? He was like going for like the best corner defensive player of the year. Has anyone even talked about Tre'Davious White this year as a shutdown corner? No. I haven't heard about him. Not as much so as we did last year. You know, Ed Oliver, the defensive line, the pass rush. I haven't heard. Sean McDermott is a defensive minded game. Also, this team is more offensive now.
No, but this is
than they are defensive.
Both of these teams are, in the sense of, are very similar. Both have really, really garbage run games. So this is going to come down to the quarterbacks. It's just who do you trust more? Do you trust Big Ben or do you trust Josh Allen?
That's where Josh Allen's going to have to win the game with his legs.
I'm sticking with the Steelers because I've been on the Steelers all year. I know a lot of people think they're an overrated 11-1 team. Hey, you're 11-1 for a reason. I don't care. You got to play who's on your schedule. A win's a win. It doesn't matter. They lost. I think they're going to be angry. They're going to be motivated because a lot of people are doubting them now. Now we're seeing a lot of holes and little flaws now with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You like to pick on the bully.
And everybody's high on the Bills. A big win on Monday night. Josh Allen looked amazing. I'm sticking with the Steelers, though. And I expect this to be the game of the weekend, too. I expect this to be the game of the weekend. But I'm going to stick with the Steelers and maintain number 1 seed in the AFC because they have to keep winning because the Chiefs have a big game, too, this week. And they're going to keep winning as well. So that number 1 for the AFC is up for grabs still. But I'm going to go with the Steelers.
When Jared says diamond in the rough about Gabriel Davis, he what didn't mean in the conversation about number 1 receivers. What he, I believe, was talking about was the 25 catches for 422 yards and 5 touchdowns, 16.9 yards per catch. That is
Gabriel Davis,
your number 4 wide receiver behind Diggs, Beasley, and Brown. That's a diamond in the rough for sure. He's been Davis has been big, and it's funny. Earlier in the year, Jared and I had a trade, and I actually tried to coax Gabriel Davis out of him. I do think that kid's got some big play potential, so I don't know if that was necessarily maybe even a shot at me. But either way, I love it. Any chance Jace has to pump up Utah, Zach Moss definitely have a really good year.
Touchdown.
Joe also drafted Zach Moss in his fantasy because he thought he was going to be Rookie of the Year. I remember.
I've got him in all 3 of my leagues.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
I read an article in the preseason. My mistake. It was like written in the Buffalo Times. And they promised me. They promised me Moss was going to steal carries away from Singletary and get all the red zone touches. So far, not happening. Real quick, I'll get back to this game. Look, 11-1, the Steelers, he overrated it. They're going to finish 14-2. They're a 14-2 kind of team. This certainly wasn't a 16-0 team. I don't think anybody realistically thought that, except for the most ignorant Steelers fans. But what are you going to do?
Prediction, but it didn't work.
I applaud the boldness.
So are you saying that the Bills win this week, bud? Is that why?
I haven't gotten there yet.
He's tuning up, bro.
I'm messing with him.
He's tuning up the man.
You know me. I have to talk for 4 minutes about the team that's not going to win before I get to the one that's gonna.
That's why our segments together are usually take
both of you.
Get to your point.
Get the damn do something.
Steelers are probably not going to win this football game, and I say this simply because the game is in Buffalo. I think it's going to be not the most pleasant situation for the Steelers coming off a rough loss. I think they lose this game close. The Bills need to win this game in a big way, boy. It's getting tight there with them Dolphins. A loss here puts you in a tough spot, assuming that the Dolphins might be able to hang with the Chiefs.
They have to still play one more time.
Sure. Take no chance. Again, this, like I said with the Giants, I mean, you can't lose any of these. You want to leave your season up to the Cowboys in week 17. Oh,
that is a Giant fan.
That is a Giant fan.
Joe,
good, and I would say the same thing here. Bills got to win this game. The only way the Bills look again, as I just mentioned, the only game the Bills lost this year was to the Titans, who right now have their own problems.
Yeah, they got crushed.
They hung with the Chiefs. Should have beaten the Cardinals. So all for all intents and purposes, this Bills team's really a one team if you think about it.
True, they lost to the Chiefs on that Monday Night Football game that got moved because of COVID. It was a rainy game. It was a crappy game. Yeah. But the Chiefs, of course, they're more talented. So the only thing I'm going to argue with you on this and why your pick is going to be wrong is because, we talk about Drew Brees, Taysom Hill, been there, done that. The Steelers have been there before.
Mm-hmm. They go against your own argument.
The Bills haven't been ready for a game like this. Now, here's the thing.
Come on, Joe, put the picture up of Brees again.
We're talking like, hey, the Bills are coming off a big win against the 49ers, Monday Night Football, first win in 20 seasons since 1999. Guess what? The Steelers, though, don't you think they poked the bear a little bit by losing last week? Don't you think that a team losing a game after all the pressure,
and it's the best thing that could happen
could
for
happen
a team.
Could regroup
because the pressure was on them.
Well, here's the other thing. The argument is, the Steelers have lost it. They lost Bud Dupree 2 weeks ago, ACL. Their defense is not as good. Minka Fitzpatrick, Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball. They can't do this. Couldn't you see? And I know you're picking the Bills. But couldn't you see the Steelers like romping the Bills like 27-14, and be like, "Oh my God!"
The only reason I would say I can't see that is because no one has done that to the Bills, and I don't know that anybody can.
Titans and Chiefs have.
Listen, I'm not saying that the Steelers aren't going to win this game or can't win this football game, and I'm certainly not disillusioned by that. And if this game happens, I think it'll be a close game.
I
don't see this being much more than 7 points, 6 points, 3 points, maybe a late field goal. I don't know.
You want to bet the Keys boys on this?
I don't. Listen, I'm simply picking the Bills because I think the Bills.
No.
I don't want to pick this game. I don't feel. I didn't say.
You're not confident with this pick.
I didn't say the Steelers are trash and they're going to get blown out. So I'm not part of this. What I'm saying is, if you're the Bills, this is a huge game for you. Uh-huh. If you're the Steelers, who cares?
No, you do
care. You finish 11-5. I mean, who cares?
Can I tell you what? Can I argue that point?
Home field advantage. That's fine. Seating. I understand that. But at the end of the day, if the Steelers lose this game, it means nothing.
It means 1,000%. And I have to argue this because two reasons. One, they're the only team in the NFL that hasn't had a true bye all season. Plus, they've had multiple injuries. Having that bye week and having Big Ben at 37, 38, whatever his age is, who cares? You can tell me I'm wrong. 38 years old, having that extra week is huge for them. If the Steelers plan to make the Super Bowl, they need that bye week so their team is fully rested because they haven't had a bye week. They've had
But how many of their guys have missed games? I mean, they've
had multiple injuries. So there's some of their best players are older. So to have that bye week, to have Kansas City have to play in week 1, to have to win 3 games instead of 2 is huge to get the Super Bowl. We know that. The percentages of the numbers up. Look at the teams that have had the byes, 1 and 2 seeds that made the Super Bowl last couple of years. It's only been the 1 and 2 seeds. There really hasn't been a wild card team to make the Super Bowl. I think the last team was the Giants. I don't remember, but it's been such a long time.
Last wild card team to win a Super Bowl?
No, even make the Super Bowl.
Green Bay Packers.
They were the last one? So that's 6 years ago. Was it 14?
See how fast I knew that?
So I think this is, Joe, you were right with the Bills. It is an important game because of the Dolphins. But I had the expectation the Dolphins are going to lose to the Chiefs too in a close one. The reason why I say this is more important is because if it does come down to the AFC Championship game, you want to be playing in Pittsburgh, you want to be playing in Kansas City. And do you want
to I'm with you 100%, but with 4 games to go,
you got to win every one.
The chances of you finishing better than the Chiefs at this point is not good.
And that you got to also figure.
that's why
They still got
it's a
to. They still got to play.
So, but look again. My point is, look,
Yeah.
you could put all your eggs in to try to win the next 4 games to take that number 1 seed. And what happens if you don't, and you get guys hurt in the process, or you're taking your weary veterans and you're pounding them for 4 games to win that division, and then you don't. Now you're screwed.
No, Jared, Philly wasn't a wild card team. They
They
were the number.
one.
They were the number 1 seed that year.
I'm telling you right now, if I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers win the game. It would be a nice bounce back for them, and it wouldn't shock me in the slightest. I just think at home, but there's no reason to think that Buffalo's not going to win a home game against anybody. If this game was in Pittsburgh, I would the word Steelers win already would have come out of my mouth. It would have been that easy for me. I don't think Josh Allen can go into Pittsburgh and beat Big Ben. I don't think he can do it.
So it is important, and the Bills have to prove it to themselves.
So, well, I guess we'll see. Time will.
Well,
only
again,
tell.
right? This to me is a really telling game for the Bills and Josh Allen. Do you belong with the big boys, or are you that second tier? And I suspect, to be honest, that they're the second tier. So if they don't win the game, then I think it becomes a clear cut. This is Steelers Chiefs all the way to the championship.
Joseph, as always, thanks, big guy.
Oh, I got to go get some water, man. My throat.
Here, Joe. Let me help you out.
Big week in the NFL season. Let's see how Big Blue performs, but a great slate of NFL football games tomorrow. Let's see who's the real teams. Let's see who the fake teams are, as 2020 is showing us. Like I said, we are streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So subscribe, comment, share, like. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.